Good evening. I would like to call to order the April 6, 2021 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting. We would like to welcome those that are in attendance as well as those watching at home or streaming online. I also would like to take this time to welcome Director Hendricks, who is participating with us via video conferencing. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll call?
Director Hendricks. Director Hendricks. Director Richardson.
Here.
Director Webb. Here. Director Peck. Here. Director Wright. Here. Director Wyrick. Present. Director Campuris.
Present.
Director Phillips.
Present.
Director Adcock. Present. Vice Mayor Hines.
Present.
Director Hendricks. Are you present?
No, I haven't.
Thank you. Mayor Scott.
Present. I will now acknowledge Director Kathy Webb for our invocation.
As we work together to solve the problems facing our residents, let us do so with open eyes so we can see the problems facing us. Let us do so with open hearts and with compassion, knowing our stories aren't the same, and grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Amen. May we all please stand for a pledge of allegiance.
And I'm away from it. Which is standing.
One nation, indivisible, with
Liberty and justice.
We have two modifications for tonight's agenda. Item M1 is a resolution to appoint legal counsel for an upcoming short-term financing note.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Before we can continue on with the consent agenda, Director Richardson, like him.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Bruce, Tom and I are putting the final touches on a marijuana ordinance that we've discussed before. I would like that added to the agenda next week. I think we're gathering some more information, doing some more research. We want the marijuana priority ordinance on next week. And also, Bruce, if you can get with Kevin, and I'm not talking about the addresses, but the number of unsafe vacant homes or structures in wards 1 and 2. And along with that, over the last 3 years, the number of demolitions in wards 1 and 2. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Director Richardson. Director Wright.
And Mayor, Mr. Moore and I have been in discussions about a youth violence prevention project that I'm bringing forward. And under his recommendation, I am bringing forth that as an ordinance, and I would like that placed on the agenda for next week as well.
Mr. Attorney, do we have an ordinance prepared?
Not an ordinance. I have been given information about what is being solved.
Thank you so much.
You've been looking at it as a resolution, right, as opposed to an ordinance. But an ordinance would be the most appropriate way to proceed with that.
Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda along with M1.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Summit Truck Group in an amount not to exceed $446,501.95 for the purchase of 3 12 cubic yard dump trucks with auxiliary hydraulics for the Public Works Department, Street Operations Division, and for the purposes A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with River City Hydraulics Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $558,237.67 for the purchase of 3 Peterson DL3 loader knuckle boom trucks for the Public Works Department Solid Waste Division and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with River City Hydraulics Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $865,771.96.
Directors' meeting is now back in session. Madam Clerk, if you would, please resume the roll. Please resume reading the consent agenda.
I believe I was halfway through
Yes.
item 3.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hardo.
Trying to get your attention.
Not streaming yet. Is it streaming now? Madam Clerk, at the request of Director Phillips, if you would just restart.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Summit Truck Group in an amount not to exceed $446,501.95 for the purchase of 3 12 cubic yard dump trucks with auxiliary hydraulics for the Public Works Department Street Operations Division and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with River City Hydraulics Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $558,237.67 for the purchase of 3 Peterson DL3 loader knuckle boom trucks for the Public Works Department Solid Waste Division and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with River City Hydraulics Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $865,771.96 for the purchase of 4 Hill 5000 25-yard rear loader refuse trucks for the Public Works Department Solid Waste Division and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with River City Hydraulics Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $860,132.16 for the purchase of 3 Hale 28-yard Durapack side loader refuse trucks for the Public Works Department Solid Waste Division and for the purpose. A resolution to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution number 15,072 of October the 15th, 2019 to approve an increase in the Construction Quality Assurance Engineering Services contract with FTN and Associates LTD by $58,055.89 for an amended amount of $270,055.89 for the construction of Cell 5 west of the Little Rock Class 1 landfill and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Cranford Construction Company in an amount not to exceed $3,350,417.82 for street resurfacing within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes funding for the 3/8 capital improvement sales tax and the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution authorizes the mayor and city clerk to execute any documents necessary to accept a donation of property located between Connor and River Mountain Parks, and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Dell Services in an amount not to exceed $376,558.42 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase, installation, and configuration of equipment to provide additional storage capacity for the city's active environment and for the purposes funding for the 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution to reallocate the 2020 Community Development Block Grant CV funds and to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with the Central Arkansas Development Council for $100,000 and for the purposes. A resolution to adopt the Pulaski County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan is approved by the United States Federal Emergency Management Agency for the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to execute an annual SOFAS contract with If World in an amount not to exceed $269,925 plus applicable taxes and fees for anti-protection for the Information Technology Department and for the purposes. A resolution to appoint Friday Eldridge and Clark LLP as legal counsel for the proposed $5,725,000 short-term financing note and for other possible matters and for the purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
Move for the adoption of consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion from Director Adcock and a second from Vice Mayor Hines. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. We'll now move to citizens' communication. And before we start with citizens communication, I do want to take time to acknowledge that the city of Little Rock is celebrating Community Development Block Grant Week for 2021, which attracts investment in underserved communities. Every dollar of CDBG funds leverages another $4.09. And when we talk about also the work that we're doing from a home development standpoint, attracting investment in underserved communities, every dollar of our home program within CDBG leverages another $4.52. I want to take this time, Director Kevin Howard, if you would you like to give a few comments? And for those in attendance, Director Kevin Howard is the director of our Housing and Neighborhood Program that administers the federal government's Community Development Block Grant. That's what CDBG stands for, Community Development Block Grant, as well as the Home Program. I know what the Home Program is, but I do not know the acronym. So Director Howard.
Mayor stands.
I know what it does.
Home Investment Partnerships Program is what HOME stands for. And Mayor, we're grateful for you to acknowledge National Community Development Week. Again, as I stated before, the City of Little Rock has been participating in receiving funds from the Community Development Block Grant for over 40 years. And it's tremendously been a great help for the City of Little Rock, especially of our citizens who receive a lot of these activities with these funds from the federal government. So definitely grateful, and we'd like to celebrate National Community Development Week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And also, Director Howard, we do want to acknowledge that I believe you have a national position as well. Could you share with the audience?
Yes, I am the chairman of the Southwest Region, which is Region 6 of the National Community Development Association, and I before the pandemic, I attended all of the national meetings as well as the winter conference. And I am on a diversity commission with the National Community Development Association as well.
Well, we do commend your hard work and representation of the city of Little Rock and the state of Arkansas.
Thank you.
We'll now begin with Dr. Gordon Johnson, Jr. I do want to share in citizens communications. It's a 3-minute limit. Dr. Gordon Johnson. Mr. Williams, if you would see if Dr. Gordon Johnson is outside.
He's back in the.
Oh, there you go, Dr. Johnson. I didn't see you over there. No, I saw you walking in.
I appreciate your acknowledgement. I did not plan to speak and didn't intend to indicate, that it was my intention to speak. But I came here to render support, for what I understood to be a consideration by the city of a special youth program. And the reason I elected to come is because the youth of the city have for a long time been especially a special concern of my own. I had opportunity over half a century ago to aid in the city of San Antonio in building out an extensive network of youth centers, and worked along with the late Senator Henry Gonzalez and a number of other political leaders in that city. And subsequent to that, I ended up in graduate school and, refined my mind to some degree as a sociologist. The reason I have remained concerned about the youth in the city goes back to some personal experience, but more importantly, a pattern of statistics which suggest that the resources allocated to different programs in this jurisdiction does not address the youth to the degree that I would think important if you intend to complement the efforts at their socialization on the part of their parents and other professionals in the community. I want to simply say that any effort that this body can make, and I think most of you will learn that, I will be more involved politically in this area in the immediate future. I cannot accept in my own mind the level of homicide, that has been taking place and, essentially, transforming the lives of thousands of individuals in this particular municipal context. Assign my name as an advocate for your youth. Assign my name in support of any endeavor, that you elect to undertake as a, government body. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Former City Director Brad Consort.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome or hello to many of my former colleagues. I think this is as Director Hines pointed out, my second time to be before you in the last 5 years. I am concerned that will label me as a frequent visitor who speaks to you often, so I will try to avoid that. Mayor, what I'm here tonight, though, is just to thank you and the board for including the zoo in your proposed sales tax proposal before the city. It will do a lot of things for the zoo and parks. I think one of the primary things it's going to do is shore up the zoo's accreditation. And unless y'all changed anything in the last 5 years, I know that's been the policy of the city that every department that can be accredited should be accredited. The zoo's been accredited for a number of years, and we remember 20 some odd years ago when it lost accreditation and how that affected the citizens of the city. It is a major economic attraction. Hopefully will be again. Most of the people, or 2/3, 3/4 of the visitors to the zoo come from outside the city, so they're coming here to spend money in the city while they're here. It will expand the education footprint of the zoo and allow it to do more partnerships with the Rock School District for education purposes. As a post-COVID people wanting to get out, the zoo and the parks are an ideal place to be able to get out and still socially distance if you want to. Perfect recreation opportunity for that. And I'll close just by pointing out that prior to COVID, when there was discussion of a parks and zoo tax, there was a survey done of the citizens of Little Rock that came back with a large majority of the citizens of Little Rock who were highly supportive of a tax dedicated to the parks and the zoo. And those people are still dedicated to supporting the zoo and what would be, I think, essential to the passage of any proposed sales tax that you have. And with that, I will bid you adieu unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Consort. Apologize. Gunnar Kays or Gunnar Rays.
I'm here tonight as sponsored by Vince Floriani, who's in community public planning, and by Bill Henry, who's head of traffic engineering. Both of them have been behind the report that I delivered to City Hall 5 days ago about the state of the Park Plaza entry exit south side. If you look at historic photographs of the mall, dominated by Dillard's, you'll see that the wall actually went up the entire length. There is a south entry exit. And its design has led to over 6,000 crashes in the last 13 years. The amount of human medicine costs and body shop bills as estimated by Bill Chevrolet runs at $100 million. What I'm asking for on behalf of the planning department, two sections that I've referred to, is either a resolution or a motion that allows Bill Henry and traffic engineering to confirm the entry and exit is dangerous for the public safety. That allows traffic engineering, who has the jurisdiction, to go through their process and order a redesign of the Park Plaza south entry and exit. The report that was delivered to City Hall to the 7 ward members of the governors and to the mayor show that the remodeling is actually straightforward. It involves taking the entry and exit 4 lanes and making it just entry only. This requires a set of teeth in the road 20 feet wide. The angled entry coming off University, to which most people shove their way over from the stoplight, jamming the intersection, gets rolled off like it was 20 years ago. That makes that corner safe. In effect, what this does is it makes the south side entry only. If you want to leave the mall, you go out the north and west exits, of which there are 6. At the north end of the south entry, right at the circular lights for Park Plaza, a short concrete wall is extended from the current wall where the gardens are all the way to the front of Talbot's so that cars cannot cross in front of each other. So on behalf of those sections of planning, they have sent me here tonight to see if it takes another meeting, that's fine, but to try and get either a resolution or a motion so that traffic engineering can proceed. I know this takes some effort, as Dillard's is a big presence, and so is Chick-fil-A across the street. But I think in the interest of the public safety, 6,000 car crashes is a lot. And at this point, Park Plaza is having financial difficulty, but people are probably rather scared to try and attempt to come out of that shopping center. I personally live across the street, and I've seen 3 car crashes.
Mr. Gaines, your time is now up. Thank you so much. Sorry, Ali, I haven't heard that in a while, so got to get the volume up a little bit on that one.
You have any questions?
No, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Jelante Hargo. Jelante Hargo. Oh, Miss Jelante. Ms. Hargo.
Hey, my daughter's Mariah and Nevaeh. We're here, we're parents of murdered children. Violence is outrageous right now. My daughter was murdered 2014. She was 15. So we need to get a handle and a hold of things that's going on in our neighborhoods. The police, people, period. You know, we see what's going on. We don't talk about it. We don't try to stop anything. There's a lot of programs out here that are trying to grow and help our community. So we're just here to try to help our community.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hargo. Jennifer George. Ms. Jennifer George. Ms. George.
Hi, I'm Jennifer George, and I'm here in support of the program, the the violence prevention program that Ms. Doris Wright is trying to get accomplished with the city. I have a son, Devontae Miller. He was murdered on September 3rd, 2020. And I think that our children are leaving by the great of numbers. It's more deaths than it is kids graduating. And it's something needs to be done. It has to start with us. And a child being murdered, it could happen to any one of us. They could be innocent. They could be at the stop sign and get shot just being caught in the crossfire. So I think that the city should start taking a look at it and start doing something about the homicide rate, because it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And we're constantly losing our babies. But the youth prevention program that Mrs. Wright is trying to accomplish with our kids.
Thank you so much, Ms. George. Ms. Lakeisha Smith. Ms. Lakeisha Smith. Ms. Smith.
Good evening. I'm Lakeisha. This is my son, Sean Colvin. He was murdered January 25th, 2014. And it's just a sad situation for our city. It used to be a nice place to come visit. And a lot of people I talk to, they're scared to come. Even though it's nice or whatever, I think that we need to have more mentors. We have a lot of empty buildings. We need to have these men come in and teach our young men how to make a living. Have it that they can help in the community better. A lot of abandoned houses, they will stop you and tell you, give you a fine for a grass need to be cut, abandoned houses. Instead of doing it, get these kids out of juvenile. From 18 to 21, there's no mental health. Kids running around here loose, crazy, need help. They're scared to talk to people. They're scared of our police. Our police need to be on bikes, motorcycles, they ride in cars. They need to go door to door, not to say, hey, I'm Officer Brown, I'll patrol your area. You need anything, come to us. You don't have that no more. I live right off of 12th Street. I have not seen the police in my neighborhood in 3 months. I used to live 15th and Commerce. 3 police, I knew them by heart. Every day they come by, they blow. My kids knew them. I think we need more. Mayor Scott, I'm sorry, but I know you're going through a lot. You got 3 or 4 police stop one car. One person in a car. Why? Why? We did something Saturday. No community came together. Everybody doing everything separate instead of coming together. 2 preachers, and it's a church every corner. Everybody want to talk about doing stuff. Come together. I don't care about race. I have nothing to do with race. We need to help our city, help our mayor, help our police. We need to come all as one. I should be able to go to my police department, my mayor, the chief, anybody, and say, hey, can we do this, do that? Can we change something about our neighborhood? Get these young men out here and let them show. Get our lawyers out here, because bond is so cheap for murders to get out. But you sell an ounce of dope, weed, whatever, you in there for 20 years. A murder, one man got killed, 6 years, he was out in 3 months. Shot this man to death, young boy to death. Our laws need to change. Besides coming out voting time, that's when you see everybody. We have events, but they need to be out all the time. But they want you to come vote. We need to change things in Little Rock. We need more assistance, we need more help for our young youth. In order to survive in Little Rock, we need it. Surrounding areas, we need it. Put back in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. Jasmine Reeves, Ms. Jasmine Reeves. Ms. Reeves.
Dear Little Rock City Board of Directors, my name is Jasmine L. Reeves. I moved to the state of Arkansas from Sacramento, California 11 years ago. Within 2 months of my college experience in the city of Little Rock, with mostly Black students, I witnessed and heard of violence on and off campus. Also, the Black students and local residents in that area were being treated as if they were not human or treated like they do not belong in the state. This was a very different experience than my experiences in Northern California. Watching the news lately is extremely hurtful. Watching white police officers and other white local residents targeting, murdering, sabotaging, and provoking Black residents has me in fear of my own children's future. I am a Black single parent raising an awesome 8-year-old autistic son and a beautiful 2-year-old daughter. In these times, I fear for my children's safety as well as my own. I am in fear of what will happen to us if I were to protect us from harm, and fear what will happen to us if I take my children out in public for family time. We do not deserve this treatment. We should have the same privileges as non-Black residents in Arkansas. I work hard to pay the bills and put food on the table. I pay my taxes, and I have been an influencer to the youth for years here in the state of Arkansas. All I ask is care about our families, put laws and policies into place to protect all people, and give us more opportunities to provide for our families. I have one question. How would you feel if that was your child or loved one murdered and hated against for the color of their skin being displayed on the news? Love, Jasmine L. Reeves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reeves. Ms. Barbara Robinson.
Hi, this is Barbara Robinson, but I'm going to speak for her. My name is Sammy Robinson, her brother. Last Thursday, we lost a nephew to gun violence here in Little Rock by the name of Dominique Tillman. And I come here before this board to express feelings about the city of Little Rock and the things, as I heard you board members refer to parts of Little Rock as underserved. So to me, that means you know it's underserved. And you throw that term around like it's okay. It's not okay to have underserved communities anywhere. That means underserved. We are not served like the community west of 430. So if you're underserved, you know we're underserved. And you know you need to do something about it. So it seems to me like it's being brushed under the rug. And so many things is happening in our city, in the underserved areas of Little Rock and in other cities around the country. But we throw these words around and do absolutely nothing about it. We need to be proactive instead of reactive. We'll react to a murder, but to be proactive is to get rid of this high school to prison pipeline. You know, let's do something about things like that, man. Most of these kids that's killing people they don't have a high school diploma. We need to be proactive people. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I'm just a layperson here, but this is my opinion. And I get angry about it. This is my first city council meeting, but it won't be my last. And if I decide to come, and I've been saying I need to do something, but you know, I'm like everybody else. If it don't happen to me, then it's not going to happen to me. But it happened to me, and I don't think that's a good deal for anybody. because I'm going to have something to say from now on. So we need something, people.
Yes, sir. And we're praying for you, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Robinson. Eve Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Eve Jorgensen. I'm a mom of a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I'm here to talk about the proposed tax. We have had a family membership at the zoo for about 10 years, and we've spent countless hours exploring every exhibit. We have learned so much from our zoo, and we have made a point to visit other zoos when we travel, including Memphis and St. Louis. My kids have noticed the things that these zoos have that ours don't. My 6-year-old Susie is especially passionate about animals and our zoo. She actually wanted to come to the meeting to speak to you herself, but her big brother convinced her this meeting would be, quote, long and boring. She is torn between wanting to be a scientist or an alpaca feeder when she grows up. I tried to assure her that she can be both. Last summer, Susie began worrying about big cat extinction, so she decided to host a fundraiser on her own to benefit the zoo. She painted 20 rocks with zebra, cheetah, and giraffe animal prints and sold them in the front yard and took a jar with $140 to the zoo the next day. I was so grateful to be able to help channel this passion for conservatism and love of animals into something tangible for animals right here. This tax would be so important for our zoo. It would allow us to bring back the giraffes and include an interactive feeding station, which my kids and their friends are very excited about already. And we will get a red wolf and boar exhibit. We could invest in new programs and educational tools for kids like my Hank and Susie. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fortune. Mrs. Ida Hooks.
Thank you, Board of Directors, for letting me speak. I am a member, and I am proud to be a member of Healing Hearts and Spirit and Parents of Murdered Children. I had a grandson, 18 years old, went to a party, a bullet struck him in the head, and he died 111 days later. Crime is killing our youth. The youth are our future. If we are not out there trying to help them, it's the time now. We have lost too many. We've lost too many young adults. And now is the time for us to come together. Come together. The churches, and especially the men, come together and give our youth a future. They can't have a future if no one is trying to help them to do better. This is a great city. I have been in this city 48 years. I am an Alabamian. I'm a Crimson Tide. I was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama. But I met one of your fine gentlemen when I was 19. And we have been married 48 years, and we have 5 children. And we've only lived 2 places in Little Rock. So I would say, please come together and help our youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hooks.
Ms. Yolanda Harrison.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yolanda Harrison, and this is my son, Devin Sprawling. November of 2018, my son was murdered. I'm here with two concerns, major concerns. First of all, with the crime rate here in Little Rock. We moved from Bryant to Little Rock, obviously against my better judgment, but I felt like after my son was murdered, my son was killed, the person that killed my son, bond was set so low, he was out before the coroners got my son's body. I've spent the past 20 plus years saving other people's lives. From the military to ICUs to ER. I left work today valuing everyone else's life and to see my son's life not being valued. It bothers me. We have to do more. He wasn't just a number, he was a human being. He was my child. The same way I take care of everyone else's family members, I wanted that same respect for my own son. And even now, this past year, we've had COVID. You know, all these cases are building up with these prosecutors. My son hasn't even had trial. He's been gone since 2018. He hadn't even had a trial yet. So now these cases are building up. They're piling up on the prosecutor. No trial yet. So when he does have trial, you know, my concern is he going to get a fair trial? Is he going to have justice? So it's just a lot. It's a lot for anyone to have to go through. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Edmund Davis.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, Board of Directors. My name is Edmund Davis. I am an associate professor, and I'm also director of DORI. DORI is an acronym for the Derek Olivier Research Institute at the campus of Arkansas Baptist College. That's the picture of Mr. Derek Olivier right there. It's actually a painting from a skilled artist here in the local area. And so I know his mother and father are watching or listening. And in fact, the whole world is actually watching, listening to this session here. So I just wanted to make sure that, you know, this was communicated perfectly clear while I'm standing here. And DORI's mission is that we collect, we monitor, and we harvest data trends as it relates to violence. And we use best practices, 21st century practices, to help ameliorate that and hopefully lower and decrease those homicide rates for safer communities. And so, of course, that initiative started several years ago when Derek passed away. But his mother asked me to read something to available to the audience here. It shouldn't take that long. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Alma. That's Miss Alma Oliver. I'm the mother of Derek Olivier, who was killed in Little Rock while attending Arkansas Baptist College. He always tried to help people, so he was fixing a flat tire across the street from the campus when somebody came to the college and opened up fire on him and several students. I assume Derek got killed for no reason. He was the only one trying to help out at that time when he lost his life. He wanted to get a degree from college. Well, he got that posthumously speaking, but he wanted to get into professional basketball and football. He wanted to also major in criminal justice. But of course, he can't live that dream. This happened on September 27th, 2012. Almost 9 years is coming up. To all churches, teachers, and schools, let this know that this is an important situation that we have here, and it takes a wraparound process for us to solve these issues. We want to teach them, young people in the city, about God, and to teach them to love self and love God first. And of course, she closes by saying, of course, the city has done a good job in other areas, and we are not putting them under the bus. However, we must address the 40% increase in homicides, in particular, when it comes to 92% of the crimes, violent that is, in terms of homicide, are African Americans. So, of course, that's an egregious number. And 68% of those homicides go to African American males. So, of course, while the readers watching, we just want our readers here to follow the right side of history to address this eloquently. And so, of course, that was from Ms. Alma Oliver. She wanted me to read that, and I'm here to represent at least 274 other people since 2010. It's been 11 years since then. We've been keeping track of this. But instead of just collecting data, we're going to use that data to solve issues. But it's going to take not just the churches, not just civil leaders, not just officers, but a whole wraparound to get things done. And so we believe that Ms. Doris Wright has, in terms of the Red Central Community Initiative, we believe that will be successful moving forward, because we can't use a practice from 1994 these 21st century issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edmund Davis. Senator Joyce Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, directors, and good evening to everybody who's here. Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to take some time to come today to express my gratitude for doing something that is difficult, and that is asking us to support a tax increase. Lord knows, as a school teacher and a legislator, I have not made an abundance of money, but I believe in my city enough, and I know it is up to us how we move our city forward. And it is not going to be moved forward unless we decide we're going to pay for it. So I'm appealing to everybody here and everybody in the city. When we talk about being one, we have an opportunity for our kids to have the best start they can possibly have with pre-K for everybody. It is indisputable that all of the young people we have heard about here tonight, whether they are victims or whether they are the perpetrators, having a great start is important. And for every one of us in here, sitting around the table, we probably had the opportunity to have our kids have a great start. And I hope we will support this initiative and understand that everything is connected. Whether we address the violence, whether or not we have our kids work together, whether or not we address our quality of life with supporting the zoo and other aspects of our city, it does depend on every one of us. And our not withdrawing into our corners and making it all about me, all about me. But no matter where I live in this city, I am all about the whole city. So, Mr. Mayor, you may have my pennies, and I will entrust whatever I have to you to do the right thing. I'm talking to the board now, not just the mayor. I'm not trying to put pennies in his pocket. I'm trying to make sure that we have what we need to address violence, what we need to make sure our kids have a great start, because we're on our own in Little Rock. As I serve at the legislature, I see that. I don't want to wait for anybody else. We pay for what we get. And I just want to suggest to this city, it's time we make whatever sacrifice we need to. And I thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here after a long day at the legislature. It's really quite nice, in fact. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. We do appreciate you and your servant leadership. We'll now move over. Madam Clerk, if you will, please read the next items.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8, Article 2, Division 1, Section 8-32 of 1988 concerning the removal and revision of certain sections of the fire districts within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare an emergency and for the purposes. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Ordinance Number 21,959 of February 2nd, 2021 to add Musco Sports Lighting, LLC as an additional third party to the contract between the City of Little Rock, Arkansas and the United States Soccer Foundation, and for the purposes. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution Number 15,015 of June the 18th, 2019 to increase the contract with Ben Nilsson Golf and Utility Vehicles in the amount of $29,000 to lease an additional 15 golf carts for the Repsamen Golf Course and for the purposes. First reading.
We've moved to second reading.
Second. There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8, Article 2, Division 1, Section 8-32, concerning the removal and revision of certain sections of the fire districts within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas to declare an emergency. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Ordinance Number 21,959 of February the 2nd, 2021, to add Musco Sports Lighting LLC as an additional third party to the contract between the city of Little Rock, Arkansas and the United States Soccer Foundation. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution 15,015 to increase the contract with Ben Nelson Golf and Utility Vehicles in the amount of $29,000 to lease an additional 15 golf carts for the Redesign Golf Course and for the purposes second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second. There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapter 8, Article 2, Division 1, Section 8-32, concerning the removal and revision of certain sections of the fire districts within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare an emergency. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Ordinance Number 21,959 to add Musco Sports Lighting LLC as an additional third party to the contract between the city of Little Rock, Arkansas and the United States Soccer Foundation. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution Number 15,015 to increase the contract with Ben Nelson Golf and Utility Vehicles in the amount of $29,000 to lease an additional 15 golf carts for the Redesign Golf Course. Third and final reading.
We've now had three readings. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. All those in favor of emergency calls, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, we'll now open the floor for a public hearing for item number 15. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance for the first time?
An ordinance to abandon a sanitary sewer easement located within the property at 4216 South Bowman Road in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second. There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.
Who is the second?
Second, Vice Mayor Hines.
Thank you.
Second reading.
An ordinance to abandon a sanitary sewer easement located within the property at 4216 South Bowman Road in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second. There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to abandon a sanitary sewer easement located within the property at 4216 South Bowman Road in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
We've now had three readings. Are there any questions? Are there any individuals to present or speak for or against? Seeing none, this hearing is now closed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you will now open the public hearing for item number 16.
An ordinance to abandon a sanitary sewer easement located within the property at 16,801 Chenal Parkway in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second. There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to abandon a sanitary sewer easement located within the property at 16,801 Chenal Parkway in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second. There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to abandon a sanitary sewer easement located within the property at 16,801 Chenal Parkway in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
We've now had three readings. Are there any questions from the board? Any member to speak for or against? Seeing none, this hearing is now closed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 17 for the first time.
An ordinance to abandon a portion of a 20-foot wide sanitary sewer easement located along the west side of David O. Dodd Road within the Wisteria subdivision in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
And before we entertain the motion and the second for the first reading to entertain, go to the second reading, this public hearing is out now in order. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to abandon a portion of a 20-foot wide sanitary sewer easement located along the west side of David O. Dodd Road within the Wisteria subdivision in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
We suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second. We've now had,
That was only the second time oh, yeah, okay. Sorry. Rattled.
You've got a motion for third reading on the floor.
there's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.
An ordinance to abandon a portion of a 20-foot wide sanitary sewer easement located along the west side of David O. Dodd Road within the Wisteria subdivision in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
We've now had 3 readings. Seeing no questions from the members of the board, we do have one person who wants to speak for, and that's Mr. Brad Porterson.
Good evening. I'm Brad Peterson with Craft and Toll and Associates representing the applicant, and I'm just here to answer any questions. Thank you.
I apologize, Mr. Peterson. I was distracted. So you may have said something. I was talking with our clerk, and I do apologize.
No, sir. I'm just here to answer any questions on behalf of the applicant.
Seeing no questions, thank you so much, Mr. Peterson. This hearing is now closed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, we have additional citizens communication that you would like to read.
Ms. Langley, please read my citizen communication comment this evening as read below. Thank you. Mayor Frank Scott Jr. read his State of the City address on March 25th, 2021 and claimed since he took the office, the city had added nearly 4,000 new jobs. But after I requested through the Arkansas FOI Act, the companies that added on jobs in 2019, 2020, and in 2021 to make up his list, the mayor's office reply was, per the custodian, Mayor Frank Scott Jr., 501-371-68888, there were no public records responsive to your request. Now our mayor is asking for over $1 billion tax dollars over the next 10 years, which equates into 12 cents when you buy a cheeseburger or a taco or chicken sandwich, or when you and your wife share a bottle of wine on each dollar you will spend instead of the 11 cents on the tax dollar you spend now. The last half-cent tax increase in 2010 generated $500 million tax dollar to be distributed over 10 years, which ended in 2020. When asked to spend more, you've got to trust those who ask you. We got a mayor that says Little Rock added almost 4,000 jobs since he's been in office, but has no public records to back up his public word. Do you trust this mayor enough to give him $1 billion tax dollars so you can spend more money for each chicken sandwich, bottle of wine, or rum and coke at happy hour to buy over the next 10 years, or should he live within his means like the rest of us who have to tell the truth to keep our jobs, to keep food on our tables? Luke Scrabble.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Before we move forward, City Attorney, if you will pass out the Rebuild the Rock Ordinance and resolution to be added to the April 13th agenda. And I also will pass out as well the proposed project list.
He requires 2 seats. He's so big.
Thank you.
Thank you. No.
We'll make sure Director Hendricks receives an email with this information. Again, this is just meant for the board to have between now and next Tuesday to review. And if there are any questions, please pose those questions to myself, our Chief Financial Officer, Sarah Linehan, and Mr. Moore. What you will notice in here, just to kind of, if you will recall, last week at our presentation of the proposal, I do want to call to some attention that there were some changes. And what you'll notice now, Director Wyrick, we've increased the street resurfacing. You see that it's gone up from 50 million in the first 10 years to roughly 62 million on the infrastructure standpoint. And then you'll also notice then there's some other changes within neighborhood programs. So, but just wanted to call attention to the public infrastructure that was increased, as well as to the public safety vehicle replacement. You'll see an increase there as well. We added, Ms. Director Linehan, you remind me, I believe it's $1 million that we added to the public safety. Thank you. I thought it was $1 million. I just want to make sure my numbers was correct. So we added another $1 million. And that specifically will focus on some additional infrastructure for the Little Rock Fire Department, along with Chief Durham, the other things that we've discussed to replace the ladder truck that we discussed. So we added some more for the Little Rock Fire Department on the public safety vehicle replacement list. Any questions from the board before we move to adjournment? That you, Director Phillips? Director Phillips?
Yes, Mayor, and I learned in law school when the professor says it's time to go, don't be the person to ask the question. But I didn't follow the rules then, and I'm not going to follow them now. So I do have some questions.
Yes, sir.
I've obviously hadn't got a chance to review the updated, but based on what we received last week, I think I made some notes of a couple questions for maybe you or the city manager, and then at least one for my colleagues, since we don't get a chance to talk. First, as it relates to the Economic Development Fund, I know there was a growth fund for small businesses. I wanted to know how would the proposal, how it will be administered, and I'll tell you why I'm concerned about that. Yesterday, in Arkansas Business, there was a story, and I brought show and tell for people at home. But there was a story about the access to capital and how out of all the money lended by banks in Arkansas, only 1.5% went to companies the owners look like me. So obviously the banks aren't doing it. Obviously we think they should and get involved. And I know the article mentioned that there are reasons why people feel like they are not having the opportunity to obtain capital. But it seems like this may be an opportunity for us to kind of fill in a gap. So I just wanted to know how we're going to use the Economic Development Small Business Fund that's proposed in the tax.
Well, just so we're clear and make sure we're always being transparent, when you go to item, let me check here. When you go to line number 26 for members of the board, you'll notice that 30 million for capital investment, that will be utilized for port expansion efforts, infrastructure improvement efforts, job creation. And so that's more along the line of traditional economic development and what we've done to bring the jobs like Amazon CZUSA, HMS Manufacturing, Alleviant Health, SCA Pharma, things of that nature. Many times, certain organizations, if there's an opportunity to help with infrastructure improvements, help for different job creation activities to help bring these companies here, that's what those dollars will be used for, along with incubator space, things of that nature. So that's the 30 million from a capital investment standpoint. The 11 million, but that's traditionally kind of more like a logistics park, a super site, and port expansion. That's more from that area. The 11 million is very similar to what has traditionally been done in the 3/8 cent sales tax when there is a company that needs some extra investment from the city. This pot of money has generally been used to help those companies come. But this pot of money, in addition to that, because we recognize if we're going to be just as fervent and passionate about bringing companies here, as I gave the example, if Priority One Logistics, who's expanded, who Vice Mayor Hines works for, needed some assistance, traditionally the small businesses that are located here, the local businesses that are located here do not have that assistance. And so this will provide that. So this can help address that issue. Director Campiris could also highlight, he's aware that myself, and when I say myself, really the city of Little Rock has been in constant communication with members of the business community to focus on some, what I would call a stopgap measure that will go in tandem with this as well to address the many things that are a part of that article.
Okay, and I know when we got the presentation last week, there was I don't know what slide it was, but I do know. Slide 23 talked about an entrepreneurship small business growth fund, and that's what you're referring to, that local companies could come to the city to have opportunity to get those resources, correct?
Yes.
Am I understand that correctly?
Yes.
All right. I want to make sure I can share it to the public.
But just like normally would be we don't give funds to every company. There are different parameters in place that meet that, but you're correct.
Absolutely, understand that. My second question, I had some people reach out to me about the public safety and technology operations allocation. Could you give me some examples to share with them on how we're going to use those dollars?
Mr. Moore, if you gave a good example, if you could.
Director Phillips and members of the board, what this does is give the chief and his executive leadership sort of an opportunity to expand operations where they feel is needed. And the example that I have been talking about a lot is the expansion of the COP program. We know that that's effective.
For those watching, Mr. Manager, what's COP program?
Sorry, community oriented policing. These are the officers that are on the bikes, on the horses that go around in the neighborhoods. I think one of the moms talked about these are the officers that go door to door, not when they're looking for somebody, but when they're trying to develop relationships. And I really believe it is in that program and in that concept. And so, without saying to the chief, hire 12 more officers, because we also know that in order to stay on top of the things we need to, we do have to invest in technology. So that's why it's sort of broad in a sense, but it allowed them to invest in technology, but also expand some of their operational components.
Okay, all right. I know this is going to be on the agenda, so we can.
And Director Phillips, I did just want to expound a little bit more on the Small Business and Local Growth Fund. In addition to that, it'll be making some investments to women and minority businesses that have a greater focus on entrepreneurship. As you know, we shared in the state of the city is Build Academy, which stands for Businesses United in Leadership Development. That too will be focused on how do we grow our existing ecosystem of small businesses here. And really will address a number of different equity issues in economic development and small business.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And my last question is kind of to my colleagues. I know that some of us received some emails this week, and maybe had some phone calls about questions about allocations. And one of which, and I know we have supporters here from the zoo, stating their opinion. I have people contact me both saying, hey, this is something we should do, something people have some questions about. So I wanted to open it up to my colleagues because we don't get to talk. What are y'all thoughts about any of the zoo allocation? Anyone heard anything? Because I'm trying to rack my brain around it as a new person, but love to hear from my colleagues on what are your thoughts, because people are asking me. So I'm kind of putting y'all on the spot, but I want to know what people think. Anyone?
Well, anyone that has a response to Director Phillips, please raise your hand. I do know Director Peck has her hand raised. Director Peck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Phillips. I see a lot of people every day like you do, especially in the restaurant. And some people very supportive. Some people think it's too much. And I think that's just going to be the case. I don't think there's a clear winner or loser, but could I ask a question in response to sort of a vague answer to you?
Absolutely.
One second, Director Phillips, if you'll raise your hand to respond.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Can I respond now?
Yeah, I'm just I'm responding to feedback.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. So my question is, and it's really to you, Mayor, and speaking to constituents that apparently, I guess the last time we went out for tax, I wasn't on the board, was in 2010, and there were a lot of community listening sessions, and citizens had some input. They could get questions answered. I know we're getting our questions answered here, and hopefully with some more clarity, we'll be able to talk a little more intelligently about these things. But if they would like to see amendments or like to give input, should I invite them to citizen communication, or would you prefer to get an email, or do you want me to collect questions or concerns, or how does one go about doing that?
All mediums of communication. Believe everyone knows to reach me via email. They have that email address at Mayor Scott. That's the staff email, mayorscott@littlerock.gov. Definitely, please feel free to send emails there, and to members of the board as duly elected members of the city of Little Rock. They should be providing you feedback as well as a duly elected member. We do have, just like members that were very supportive, not only of the zoo, but just the parks in general did come to citizen communication. I believe Senator Elliott shared her support for the overall tax, but she kind of spoke a lot to education, the education piece of part of it, as well as addressing public safety. And then we heard from Ms. Jorgensen and others and talk about the zoo. So every resident has that opportunity during the citizens communication, in addition to reaching out to their city director. We'll share with the members of the board. This is not the first time we've pursued this. As we all recall, this is something that we were discussing, and much of the particular as it relates to the quality of life and place portions. We did have a community-led portion. It was called the R3 Little Rock Parks Task Force to reimagine, reinvest, and revitalize Little Rock Parks as the anchoring institution, where they spent close to 6 months working on this. And so we had a lot of community, and that's what really built the quality of life and place initiatives from that standpoint, and even from other working groups that have happened in 2019 and early 2020 helped develop this as well.
Right, and I should have mentioned about the R3 task force.
As well as, I believe, Director Webb was on a zoo task force. So much of this, which came with those recommendations, and then again, Directors Wyrick and Peck and Webb and Wright, you all have been a part of the age-friendly task force, and that is where we got our numbers from to develop the senior center that's a part of this process as well. So for the better part for a year and a half, we've had a number of different community-led processes to help develop this very comprehensive plan here today. But I would say that between now and whenever, of course, the board decides to take this up, it'll be on the agenda There's opportunities for members of the community to reach out to all of us to share various feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Director Phillips, did you have another question?
Yeah.
Do we have, then after Director Phillips, Director Webb?
My last thing, Mayor, and I'll shut up so we can go home. I did want to address the families that came to our board meeting today. I know most of them have left, but I'm assuming that they're watching. We hear you. I personally feel you. I lost two brothers to gun violence in the city a long time ago. So I know what it's like and how it affects families. But that's one reason why I'm supportive of this tax, Mayor, because there are things in it to address the issues that we heard moms talk about. Vacant buildings and lack of training and job opportunities. I wrote it down. One guy mentioned that we have underserved communities. And my understanding of this tax is going to give us opportunity to make sure that the underserved are no longer underserved, that those lacking training will no longer lack training or opportunities to better themselves. So I just want those families to know that we hear you. And I think this tax will go a long way to change lifestyles in our city to make sure that those type of incidents don't happen in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Director Phillips. Director Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to adjourn.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, meeting adjourned.